Hi, this is Nicole Jones, and welcome to Amplify Your Brilliance. What I know for sure is that one of life's greatest gifts will meet you when you go after your more. And so here is where I share with you thought-provoking insight and behind-the-curtain conversations with women who have reached the pinnacle of success because they went after their more. And I really want you to get this. One idea from these episodes can make a remarkable difference, not just in your business, your career, but in your life. Also, make sure you join the conversation in our Facebook group. Go to thebrilliancetribe.com. Now, grab your pen as we begin today's session of Amplify Your Brilliance. Hello and welcome to this episode. So listen, you guys better get ready because I have one of my absolute best girlfriends today. So I'm beyond excited. So she is a A-game lifestyle advisor and attorney and author. JC Ellis appears regularly as a featured correspondent on morning TV shows. Now, her career includes, now y'all get this, membership in SAG-AFTRA as a model, an actress, an HR director, and a vice president of Fortune 100 corporations. And then she paused her career to focus on family. And in the middle of that, she published not one, not two, but 6 young adult fiction novels while serving with various volunteer organizations. And she is penning the 7th in that series, which is the Black Diamond series. Now, if that wasn't enough, while raising 3 adolescent children, JC enrolled in law school and graduated in the top 20% of her class. Now, tell me this woman doesn't know about the power of your pivot. Her television appearances, her being an attorney and author. She describes her most important role as the chief operating officer and brand ambassador. I'm so excited I can't even get it out of her family. Welcome, JC. I'm excited, girl.
Thank you, Nicole. Wow. I'm like, who is this woman? I want to meet her.
Because you don't often realize all that you've done on the other side of it. Right?
You know, that's right. Sometimes we want to keep it humble. Then you hear it back. You're like, okay, yeah, I did that. Let me stand up with my shoulders out.
Right. I was just going to say, you better go in and brush your shoulder off. Right.
Right. That's right. JC.
So with that, the thing that, let me say this, when I first met JC, when she walks in a room, she commands the presence of the room. And the thing that I love about you the most is that you don't settle for where you are. You're always going after what's next. And so where did that come from?
You know what? That's a really good question. I feel like I was raised by a cadre of very strong women who, just my aunts. And, it was like I just watched them do amazing things and never set limits. And so when you have that as your foundation, it kind of teaches you, well, I can do that too.
Right.
I see, my Aunt Barbara, my Carolyn raising kids and working on advanced degrees and holding down full-time jobs. And so it just becomes your norm, right? And then for me as a young woman, I just always tried to surround myself with fabulous women like you, right? Iron sharpens iron. And so I've just always, even from the time I was, in junior high and didn't realize what I was doing, I was building a strong support network of like-minded people, which has kept me moving forward in my life.
And even, when I met you, Jeanette, and you were working on your books, and you just make everything look so effortless. And I know it's not. So even I remember, and I'm going to probably mess this up because, we seasoned, so I'm going to mess up this memory. But I remember when I found out, I'm not going to act like I remember the conversation. I know we had one, but I won't remember it word for word, when you told me you were going to law school. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, it was, and you were one of my core girls who even knew that, because a lot of people didn't know I had enrolled in law school until I graduated, sat for the bar, and passed the first time, I might add, at my age, because I kept it close. Because I believe in, I don't let everybody know what I'm doing, right? Because sometimes people will rise up and try and stop you because they see limitations in their own life. And I experienced that early on when I pivoted the first time after graduating from college and taking a job with a company that I'd interned with, because it was, quote unquote, the safe thing to do. And at that time, I needed that financial stability. So I went the safe route. And they paid for my graduate school education. So I don't regret that. But when I decided to pivot the first time and do something in the creative space, and you can relate to this because you were in entertainment for a long time, I told a couple people and they looked at me like I was crazy. And I realized then, and at that point, I was like 25 or 26, I can't remember. I said, you know what? I don't need their approval. And so I'm going to do what I'm going to do. it's going to work out or not, but I don't need people bringing their negativity into things that I feel led to do.
And where did that, Jeanette, come from? Because that wasn't the first time you made a move, girl. I'm like, this girl makes so many moves. I'm just like sitting with a bowl of popcorn waiting for the next one. Because even though she finished law school, I already know. And listen, passed the bar and then got on TV again.
Yeah,
I was like, girl, right? And so it's always yummy. And let me say this before you answer the other question. I love how you said you can't let everybody know because they will hold you back. And because you fly at such a high altitude, girl, they pulled you back a little bit. I could see them drawing back enough is what I should say. And I'm like, where did that, Jeanette, come from?
That's so funny. I just honestly think I was an old soul from the time, I was born, I think. Seriously, when I was in third grade, I remember Miss Palmer in second grade, and Miss Ricks, my second and third grade teachers, they smoked at the time. And they would have me sit in front of the classroom watching the class so they could go outside and have a cigarette, right? And so they knew, because my classmates knew, if I do something out of line, Jeanette's going to tell, right? Because that's just who I was. And, now they say, well, snitches get snitches or snitches get stitches or whatever. But teachers knew that I was smart, I was responsible, and I was going to do the right thing, right? And so I don't know how I developed that label early on, but it just kind of stayed with me, where in middle school, my teacher said, you should run for student council. I don't know what I was doing that he thought I should do that, but I did, right? So I think sometimes, just to keep it humble, I think I just have some innate leadership qualities that I don't really care what people think about things that I'm going to do, because if I think it makes sense, and I have, gone to the throne of grace and gotten, a nod that, I should move forward in this direction, then I do it and let people judge all they want. And sometimes things haven't worked out, but usually they do. So I just don't let the world dictate my moves.
That's so good. I do not let the world dictate my moves. I said that again because somebody needed to just hear that today. And I think that is what kind of drew us naturally to each other. So just to give you guys a breakdown. So both of our husbands work for a larger corporation. I'm not going to say the name of it. And we moved to a city. I lived in they worked in Pewaukee. Now you can imagine both of us are from large cities. Okay. Chicago, LA. And we moved to Pewaukee. And I'm like, Lord Jesus. And Pewaukee is not big enough for either one of us. Okay. And so when we met each other, it was like not that we needed permission to be ourselves, but we had someone that gave us permission to be ourselves. And we just instantly bonded. Yes. And the thing that I absolutely love about you the most is how not only do you share your journey, but you applaud other people's journey.
Yes, girl. I remember the day we met. We were at an event and we were glammed up. It was a formal event by the company. And I saw you. Our husbands kind of knew each other loosely, but not really that well because we had just moved to the area. And I looked and I was like, she's fabulous and beautiful like me, so she needs to be my friend, because I'm the chick who walks in and, I don't suffer from a lack of self-confidence, never have. And I'm usually never the baddest person in the room.
Well, she can't say this, so let me say this. Look, she can't say this and she won't. When Jeanette walks in the room, it's like, you guys remember that song, The Men Are Pause? Well, it's not just the men. Okay, the whole room. Because let me tell you, this woman has had 3 children, okay, and fits in a dress like she ain't had one.
Yeah, girl, I work hard at it. I'm gonna tell you, I just came back from yoga right now. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's hard. Gravity is doing its thing, but I'm trying to stay ahead of it. But I saw you, and I was like, I walk up to people that I think will either enhance my brand or help it in some way. And when I met you, your spirit, you were beautiful, etc. I was like, we are kindred spirits. And from that day forward, we just kind of started hanging out and grew closer and closer. So, a lot of people, and, this as a woman, it's like, I just don't have the energy in me to hate on other women. I don't. Girl. Because, and I know, and again, that's why we clicked, because you were doing your ministry at the time and our spirits were just in tune, because you were all about empowering women. And I've always been about, when my friends are doing something great, and especially if it's something that I don't know how to do or, want to do or whatever, I celebrate that. I'm the first one to be like, girl, just invite me to the party. I celebrate you. And if more women had that, what you and I have in terms of just lifting people up, genuinely, I think it would just be a very powerful thing.
And the thing that I think it sometimes gets missed, and I'm gonna keep it all the way where we are. Yeah, okay. So yes, for lack of sounding conceited, we're both cute, but it's beyond that because we're one car accident away from that being gone. Let me keep it all the way real, right?
Praise
So
God,
the thing that I love about Jeanette is that we could talk about Jesus and Jay-Z and not miss a beat, right? And so we could talk politics, we could talk Jesus, we could talk rap music, we could talk kids. There's no subject off the table. And I walk away from every time I'm with you with such a heightened awareness. Like there's this new Crown Act. Now, I should have known all about the Crown Act because I wear my hair natural. Now I know about it, but she was like, she broke it all the way down. I was like, this Jeanette right here makes me want to go pick up a book right now. Like I feel like a slacker. And that's not your intention. But what it does, as you said, iron sharpens iron. But that's who you are in the world. And when I met you and being around your presence, I'm sorry, y'all, this is a love fest, but I want you guys to get this because oftentimes we don't get celebrated. And so even in this moment, what you personify is, I'm going to mess up this quote because I didn't know I was going to say it. So there's a quote by Marianne Williamson that says, when you let your light shine, and I might mess it up, you unconsciously give other people permission for their light to shine. But here's what happens.
You got it right.
But that part, girl, I didn't say the whole quote. It's a whole longer quote that I would mess up if I tried to say the whole thing. So y'all Google it. But and actually, Nelson Mandela said the whole quote in his speech when he won his inaugural speech. We're going to stop here and take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back for more. Have you heard the news? Once a year, I host a free 5-week online business school called The Brilliance School. Starting on May 13th, in the course of 5 weeks, I'm walking you through the blueprint I've used to grow my own business into multiple six figures. Plus, I've used to coach other women to do the same. If you're looking to start or grow your business, you don't want to miss this, as I'm giving you everything you need to bankroll your brilliance. Learn more and join us at thebrillianceschool.com. Here is the thing I want you guys to get. That same light that conjures up other people or gives other people permission, it also makes people hate on you. Because what happens is when you get around someone, and this is why Jeanette and I were like, yes, I love her. She conjures it up in me. And so at the same token, when you're conjuring someone that ain't ready, that's called hateration. So then they start hating on you like, who she thinks she is. And so I know you've had a lot of that. So tell us about those moments. It's like, what, Jeanette, do you need to be to rise above what the kids would call hateration, if that word is still being used right now?
Yeah, that's real, because I lost a childhood friend because of some deep-seated hateration that I didn't realize even existed, because I was just living my life and doing what we were doing early on. I think I had my second child, and I'm not going to say any names, but this person was having a hard time in life. And this had been one of my ace coons. And she thought that by me living my life, I was being boastful. And I hadn't done anything other than invited her over to a celebration at my home with other people there. And it became this thing. And she wrote me this mean-spirited letter, which, to this day, we never really recovered from it. And so she was going through some personal things and took that out on me. But one of my mentors told me that for her to sit down and write that letter to you, she had some deep-seated feelings from way back that didn't just trip or trigger with her seeing your home and some other things that were going on. I think that were just too much for her spirit to take. And so, and I felt that, but it took somebody else to point that out. So you're right on, Nicole, that sometimes, you might have people in your circle and you think they're cheerleaders and they really aren't. And that will be revealed in sometimes hurtful and painful ways. So I view my life as theater. And I know that irritates people sometimes, but I say, not everybody gets to experience backstage access to the theater that is my life. Some people have front row passes, some people in the orchestra, some people in the second balcony, some people have front row passes that get relegated to the second or third balcony, or some of those people are now in the vestibule trying to get in, because I'm very protective of my family and my values and just my spirit. And so when you show me that you no longer deserve to be in the front row viewing the theater that is my life, I will escort you out like an usher.
Come on. Look, Jeanette and I have had long conversations about this stuff because, so even when you do that, it's still painful, especially when it's been someone, this has happened to me too, because we talked about it, where you have people that were, like you said, your ride or die. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, you, and I know for me, when it happened to me, I'm like, you know me, how dare you even think that about me? Or maybe you didn't know me at all. And it took me years to get over the pain. I had to pull my whole self back and say, okay, Lord, what would Jesus do? Because right now I want to be Inglewood. Those of you that don't know, I'm from Inglewood and I do know how to cuss people out. I just don't do it. Okay. Because that's what I was raised around. Okay. One of them roll your neck, put your hand on your hip. And I used to be her. Okay. So she's still present. So I have to make a conscious choice in those moments not to go there, and which is hard because she's still present.
We keep it classy and sassy.
Girl, sometimes I'm just trying to keep it by the cross, right?
No, exactly. No doubt. And here's what I learned from that moment. God sent me other soldiers that, kind of filled that gap, right? And so I just believe, and I did a segment on this on one of the morning shows, sometimes friendships and relationships have expiration dates. And nobody wants to talk about that because they don't really give you a script on how do you break up with a friend, how to get dumped. I did a segment called How to Get Dumped with Dignity and what you should do. But when it's in terms of a relationship, especially someone that was a ride or die, when they let you down or they show you who they really are, or sometimes they've been who they are and maybe you've allowed it, because I had that experience too, where she didn't change. I knew who she was. But I got to a point in my life where I was like, wow, I can no longer tolerate some of the stuff that I know she's doing because it's not in alignment with who I am. Right. And I tolerated it for far too long. And you give yourself permission to say, enough is enough. Right. And you stop. And, now I still have a cadre of, I've got a lot of friends, and I just on Facebook, I just have people that, I wish I could spend more time with, and I'm blessed in that regard. But I do protect my privacy and that of my family, especially as we get older, because not everybody in your circle is rooting for you. They want to see you stumble. And I know that's hard for some listeners to hear, but it's the reality. So you have to kind of have some discernment and have a strong prayer life and, meditating spirit, so you can know who those people are and put them in their rightful place. And that, not to say that you excommunicate them from your life permanently, but they may have to shift from the front row to the balcony.
Right.
So it's the view is better in the front row, but
girl,
they can still see from the balcony.
And this is such a powerful conversation around pivoting, because the thing that I want all the listeners to get about Jeanette, and you've heard her. So first, she was an HR director and the vice president of Fortune 100 corporations, not one, corporations, that's plural. Then she made the conscious decision to stay home with her children, to be the COO of her home. So understand that's no less of a job than being the vice president of a Fortune 100 corporation. And then in the midst of that, started writing books. And then after she finished all of that, as a kid, her three kids rather, one was out, one was getting ready to be out. The third one is almost out. She decides, hey, I'm going to go to law school. Yeah. And I'm saying all that because in the midst of that, the power in your pivot and really making the big, bold move to pivot is sometimes you've got to let go of people that will keep you where you are.
That's right. Yeah. And so for me, we made it. My husband has a big job and I had a big job, and we made the conscious decision when our third child was born that somebody needed to slow down. And, I know who I married, and I knew that I would have to pause, and it was supposed to just be a slight pause. And then, we kept getting more blessed by opportunities that for him that required relocations, et cetera. And so one of the things that, I just fully believe in Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy Onassis, former First Lady, said this, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's basically, if you choose to have children, if you don't raise your children properly, nothing else you do in life will matter. And so I've always taken that to heart, because even as I watched my aunt do various things and get advanced degrees and hold down full-time jobs and raise families, et cetera, they still focus number one on their family. My dad passed 17 years ago. 6 weeks after my third child was born. And when I was working full time until then and had 2 kids and a caregiver who came, and I would work till, rush through the door at 6 o'clock to relieve her. And so my father, who was very old school, didn't want my mother to go back to work. They had 4 kids, et cetera. He would say, now you get to go home and do your most important job. And at the time I resented that because I was like, dude, I can do both. I can do it. And I was doing it, but it was somebody needed to pause. And so I chose to pause. And then,
But keep in mind too, look, this is what most women don't say. So you could go to work all day and your husband could go to work all day. And I'm not saying this is everybody's experience, but I'm going to talk about me because I have bonus kids. So I didn't have the all day, everyday child. It'd be, on vacations, we'd have them, right? So it might be 2 months at a time. But what I would have to do when I was working alongside having this job that I have now is I'd have to come home from work and cook.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I got so even though you both are working, there is another added level of things that, dare I say, the other partner in the house is not doing.
Absolutely.
No diss. Yeah. But what that means is that you don't get a break.
Yeah,
right.
No doubt.
You don't get a break.
Yeah, and it was taxing. Exactly. So you're absolutely right to highlight that's just the reality in most relationships. It's usually 90% of the time the female who runs the household and everything involved in that, including meals and shopping in it. And now, you can get assistance with that. You can have groceries delivered and things like that. But, 20 years ago,
back then,
when I did exactly, that wasn't available. And so I was doing the most. And again, I watched the women in my family do the most. But for me, when I stopped, I knew I still had, things that I wanted to do. And so I've always been told that I was a strong, solid writer. And so I looked around and I didn't see any young adult fiction novels that were representative of the women in my family, the girls that I was raising. And so I sat down to write one and written in the spirit of what a Judy Blume novel, but with girls of color as the heroine. Yes. So I did that as a way to kind of keep my mind sharp while I was on this temporary kind of, I hate to say mommy track, but that's what they called it back then. And then I was ready to go back, had an opportunity, had 2 big opportunities. Simultaneously, my husband got offered another big opportunity. And so I turned down so again, sacrifice the things we do for our family. But what I didn't want to do was not explore things that I was passionate about. And so in order to promote my book, I pivoted when we got to Milwaukee and reached out to a morning show and just kind of pitched myself. I had never done live television before, and they brought me on so I could talk about my books during Black History Month. So that was kind of a creative. I saw a niche and said, well, hey, I'm just seeing white people on this show. They need some diversity. So I reached out and they reached back and, I kind of faked it till I made it. And figured out how to read.
And we're fabulous in the middle of faking it. Exactly. And the thing that's great is what most people don't realize is men will say yes to stuff that they don't know how to do.
Yes.
And they'll figure it out in the middle of it. A woman, we have to know, well, we only say yes when we know how to do it already. So the fact that you said yes to the TV show and then you were like, oh, snap. Oh, Lord. Right. But you were phenomenal because I remember watching you the first day. I was like, yes. And I think I called you. I had to have called you because I don't think texting was in then. And I was so proud of you. You were like, girl. And in the midst of everything Jeanette is sharing with you guys, I want you to get this one principle that she is, I promise you, if we could put a picture in a dictionary next to reap what you sow, it would be Jeanette. So if you guys saw her children right now, who they are, you cannot have a phenomenal family, a phenomenal child if you don't sow into that child. Okay. And if you saw her children, I mean, even her marriage. Now, no marriage is perfect. I'm sure your husband get on your nerves sometimes, just like mine does. But if you saw the friendship and the foundation that they've set, it's because she's made conscious decisions. If you saw, first of all, y'all got to go get her books. At the end, I'll ask her to share the Black Diamond series. If you have teenage girls, they need to be reading these books. Number one. Number two, again, investing into the next generation of girls of color. So what you be, Jeanette, is a woman that is reaping everything because you put in and you invest in your brilliance. And how do I move it forward?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
And
I received that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I mean, you do. And I am always amazed. Because you don't settle for where you are.
No.
You're always going after your next level. And here's what I know is that God is always rumbling our next level in all of us. The thing that you show us, Jeanette, is you don't skip a beat. You're like, okay, that's next. Let me go. It's like, well, Lord Jesus, did you even get nervous about it at first? And even if you did, you never show it.
Well, bless you for that, because I was so nervous that but I was like, you know what, I gotta think this and figure it out. And they kept inviting me back, and then they had me co-hosting the show a few times. And I fully believe, again, my husband, make plans. You want to make God laugh, make some plans. He got another opportunity that relocated us yet again. And so, but it all works out in the end. They actually reached out to me this summer, and I did some segments remotely, because of Zoom. So that was a way to kind of restart that interest. But the law school thing came out because I looked at my children, and again, I was pouring into them, and they were academically excelling in school. And I realized, that I'm not going to need to be home forever. And so I looked around and realized, I was always interested in studying law. And again, I took the safe route, taking the job with the company that I'd interned with because it was the safe thing to do. Instead of, I would have had to quit my internship to go to law school. And I didn't want to do that. I couldn't afford to do that at the time. So I said, well, I can explore it now. And so I studied for the LSAT and didn't do as well as I thought I should have the first time. And I was embarrassed by my score.
Look, how long had it been since you've been in school? Part of that was
a minute.
And part of that was the muscle of just taking those doggone standardized tests. So it had nothing to do with who you be. It was everything about learning how to take those doggone tests, which are not made
for us.
Exactly. Right.
So then I took it again and did, better and, applied. And again, only people who knew I was doing this were people who slept in my house. And I'm going to tell you, when you do that, when you kind of set out to reinvent yourself, sometimes even people that you think should support you, will rise up and not be as supportive as you would like. So don't think that, my husband was waving pom-poms. He wasn't in full support of that at all, not at all. So it created some confusion in my family and my marriage that we had to work through. But again, I paused and decided I'm going to put myself on this agenda because I had been on everybody else's agenda. I've been running, everybody else had been ahead of me on the agenda, which is the commitment I made to my marriage and to my children. But I figured out a way to do it without creating too much havoc in the lives of our children. And people say, well, how did you do that? How did you go to law school full time and raise 3 teenage children? I said, well, you work every day. Law school became my job. So I got a partial scholarship. And then in order to keep my scholarship, I had to keep my grade. I had to stay within the top third of the class, which is a moving target. It's not as easy as saying, oh, you have to have a 3.3 to keep your scholarship. The percentage changes based on if your classmates are doing better. So I was constantly chasing, this number. And I'm proud to say my scholarship never became at risk because I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning, study before my kids got up, take them to school. And I was in the library, law school library every day at 8:15, like a job, whether I had class or not. So I disciplined myself to do this because I knew I can't fail. Failure is not an option. So that's how I was able to manage that pivot.
Okay. Listen, now look, believe it or not, our time is up. Obviously, this is one of my good girlfriends. We could be on the phone for the next 5 hours and feel like it's been 20 more minutes. So, the thing that I admire about you is even getting up at 4 a.m. when you got kids. It's like, Jesus, girl. And it's being committed and making the big, bold moves that you need to make so that you can go after what's next for you. And look at you go, look at you go. I'm excited for all that you are. Thank you for being courage under fire. Thank you for always being committed to being the highest and best version of who God created you to be, girl. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And ladies, you can do it too. You really can. You just have to believe in yourself. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Amplify Your Brilliance. Now, I want you to walk away from these sessions with value, so answer either one or all 3 of these questions. Number 1, what was your greatest takeaway? Number 2, what will you do different as a result of what you heard? See, you may have heard something you've already heard, or you may have learned something new. Either way, don't take the insight that was shared with you for granted. So commit to doing one thing different as a result of what you heard. Number 3, what was confirmation for you? What did you hear that confirmed you're on the right path? See, I want you to take a moment and celebrate you. Too often in our journey, we focus on what we're not doing and we forget to celebrate what we are doing. So I want you to share with us something that showed you that you're on the right path. Now again, share. Share either answer number 1, what was your greatest takeaway? Number 2, what will you do different? Or number 3, what was confirmation for you? And share it in our Facebook community. Go to thebrilliancetribe.com and use the hashtag #AmplifyYourBrilliance. See, each experience we encourage, support, and celebrate as a community. It allows us to expand in possibility and wisdom, in encouragement and love. Now, we've invited you into this community to deepen our journey with being the answer somebody needs and being committed to your next level. So until the next time, be extraordinary, be unapologetic, be bodaciously you, go and amplify.